N'Golo Kanté is only the second player in history to win back-to-back Premier League titles with two different clubs. When he left Leicester, they dropped from champions to 12th place, while Chelsea rose from 10th to the top of the table, all because of one man. Despite playing football since he was 8, Kanté's small stature and shy demeanor left him overlooked by scouts, who favored flashier players. At 16, however, JS Serens saw his potential and promoted him to the first team in France's 9th division. In just 3 years, he carried them up 2 tiers and led them to a cup victory against a team 4 divisions higher. Still, no major clubs came calling. Determined to help, the club director personally drove Kante to trials and even sought help from Arsène Wenger, who showed no interest at the time.
You could have got Kante as well.
Yeah. Easy, because he played in a club in Paris that's called Suresnes, where one of my best friends is director, and he told me, please, I have a player, he's unbelievable.
Boulogne finally gave him a chance. They signed him on an amateur contract, and after 2 quiet years in the reserves, he finally debuted for the first team, coming on as a substitute in the last game of the season, just as they were relegated to the 3rd tier. In the 2012-13 season, he played in the 3rd tier Championnat National, missing only 1 league game. In 2013, SM Caen, recognizing his talent, signed Kante, and the results were remarkable. In his debut season, he played every league match, led them to the top tier, and earned a spot in the team of the season. Even as he rose to prominence, Kanté's humble nature stood out. Once, he brought a box of chocolates to a teammate's birthday party, apologizing for his choice of present because he'd never been invited to one before. On the pitch, however, there was no shyness. In his 2nd season, he recovered the ball more times than any other player in Europe. His performances caught the eye of Lyon, West Ham, and Marseille, who all bid for him. But it was Leicester City's scout, Steve Walsh, who saw something extraordinary. Walsh, known for discovering Jamie Vardy and Riyad Mahrez, was tasked with finding a defensive midfielder. Watching Kante in action, Walsh famously remarked, "I could swear there were 2 of him on the pitch." Determined to secure him, Walsh convinced Leicester to outbid Marseille. For €9 million, SM Caen's biggest ever sale, Kante joined Leicester City, marking the beginning of a truly remarkable chapter. A few matches into his Leicester career, Kante's quirks were already the talk of the squad. He barely spoke, and at one point he even offered to run to training every day until teammates convinced him to buy a car. Yet, on the pitch, his silence gave way to a relentless roar of energy. Ranieri, once unsure about Walsh's discovery, quickly ate his words, calling the scout to say, "Steve, don't ever listen to me again. I don't know what I'm talking about." 2nd May 2016, the impossible became reality. Leicester City defied every prediction, winning the Premier League in one of the greatest underdog stories in sports history. Though many called it a miracle, Kanté's contribution was anything but supernatural. It was simply extraordinary. That season, he completed 175 tackles and made 156 interceptions. Across Europe, no one recovered the ball more than him once again. Sir Alex Ferguson himself remarked midway through the campaign, "Kante is the best player in the league, by far." By the season's end, Kante earned a spot in the Premier League team of the season. His performances also secured him a place on France's squad for Euro 2016. In his first match, Kante made an immediate impact, leading the team in passes, tackles, distance covered, and interceptions. He even assisted the game-winning goal, but as fate would have it, a 2nd yellow card sidelined him for the quarterfinals, and he was dropped from the lineup for the final, which France lost to Portugal. Despite the heartbreak, one thing was clear: Deschamps and the rest of Europe had seen enough to know Kante was destined for greatness. As interest in Kante skyrocketed, the biggest names in football, PSG, Barcelona, Manchester City, Arsenal, and Chelsea, all vied for his signature. Ultimately, it came down to Arsenal and Chelsea. When Arsenal balked at paying a €10 million agent fee and opted for Granit Xhaka instead, Chelsea swooped in to secure the deal. It was time for Kante to conquer the world. Wearing the number 7 despite playing a deep midfield role, Kante fit seamlessly into a Chelsea side looking to reclaim its place atop English football. Just a year after finishing 10th in the Premier League, Chelsea, powered by Kante, clinched the title. Remarkably, Kante became the first player since Eric Cantona to win back-to-back league titles with 2 different clubs. When the season's awards were handed out, there was no question. Kante was named PFA Player of the Year. Not even Eden Hazard's brilliance could overshadow him.
It's very special to be here because a few years ago I was in France in lower division. like 5 years ago, I wasn't professional. I couldn't imagine to be here.
In just a few seasons, Kante had risen from obscurity to being one of the most admired footballers on the planet. He finished 8th in the Ballon d'Or voting, won French Player of the Year. In the 2017-18 season, Kante was named Chelsea's Player of the Year after another standout season, which included winning the FA Cup. Perhaps nothing encapsulated his greatness more than Thierry Henry's words. "The first time I saw him, I went over and poked him in the chest. I just had to check if he was real." However, as the accolades poured in, tragedy struck. Kante lost his older brother to sudden heart failure, a devastating blow that only seemed to fuel his resolve as he prepared for his first World Cup. On the world's biggest stage, Kante delivered a masterclass. Even with Kylian Mbappé dazzling the world, many analysts argued that Kante deserved to be named Player of the tournament. Even more remarkable, Kante started the final with a stomach bug, hence his substitution in the 55th minute. Before that, he had played every minute. True to his humble nature, when the team celebrated, for the next 2 seasons, repeated injuries kept Kante sidelined. While Chelsea secured the Europa League, the buzz surrounding him began to fade. Ironically, it was during this period of doubt that Kante delivered perhaps the greatest season of his career. When Frank Lampard was sacked mid-season, Chelsea's campaign seemed doomed. They were languishing in mid-table mediocrity, with only cup competitions offering a glimmer of hope. But then, as Mendy later revealed, Kante was sure they were going to win the Champions League. In the Champions League knockout rounds, he was unstoppable. He earned back-to-back Man of the Match awards against Atletico Madrid and then repeated the feat in both legs of the semi-final against Real Madrid. By this point, his performances were being hailed as some of the greatest ever seen from a midfielder. Then came the final. Chelsea faced a Manchester City side brimming with world-class players. Guardiola flooded his lineup with midfielders, but Chelsea had N'Golo Kanté. The famous Man City tweet summed up his performance that night. "Kante has been everywhere all game. If we can bypass him, we might be in business." Chelsea triumphed, lifting the Champions League trophy. This achievement is even greater when you watch Havertz, Werner, and Mount right now. Tuchel summed it up best. "I've wanted Kante at every club I've ever been at. Here, I finally had him." Captain Cesar Azpilicueta was asked if there is a better player than Kante in his position. His response?
Straightforward, no. He does everything.
Media outlets declared that Kante deserved the Ballon d'Or. For a moment, the football world seemed united in agreement. This was Kante's year, but fate had other plans. At the Euros, Italy took the title, and in a bewildering decision, UEFA named Jorginho, not Kante, as their Player of the Year. By the end of 2021, Messi's Copa America triumph sealed his Ballon d'Or win. Kante, who missed the Nations League due to COVID protocols, had to settle for 5th place. The moment the world longed to see, Kante shyly accepting the Ballon d'Or, never came. Despite this disappointment, Kante ended the season on a high note, helping Chelsea win their first ever Club World Cup. Just as the next season started, disaster struck. Kante suffered a severe hamstring injury, forcing him to miss the World Cup and much of the season. With his contract expiring and Chelsea's new owners uninterested in renewing it, rumors of a move to Arsenal emerged. However, Kante eventually chose to move to Saudi Arabia, stepping away from the spotlight. But just when everyone thought Kante was finished, in the summer of 2024, Kante proved everyone wrong. He took over the Euros, earning 2 Man of the Match awards right from the start. And now, at 33 years old, Kante is still going strong for both club and country, and his story is far from over. But the same cannot be said for his former Leicester teammate. Click here to discover how Danny Drinkwater went from Premier League champion to working construction jobs. It's a story you won't believe.